Well, you might call it the most surreal lawsuit ever. Literally, 6 merchants in New York are suing over knockoffs of products that they're selling on the internet. Only, get this, the products aren't real. They're actually digital. They're being sold in what you might call a parallel universe online. It's called Second Life, a 3D world with about 10 million members or residents. When you join, you create an alter ego, and you can walk or fly around, socialize, and yes, even buy stuff. And that's where the lawsuit comes in. 6 virtual vendors on Second Life say another vendor ripped off ideas for some of their wear, so they're suing him in the real world. Told you it was pretty surreal. And joining us to talk more about it and Second Life phenom is our regular tech analyst, Jesse Hirsch. Okay, walk me through this again. This is an entirely virtual world. Real money changes hands in this virtual world. So what are the grounds for this lawsuit here?
Well, really it comes down to money. These are people who, while these products are virtual, they are real in the sense that they help create this virtual universe. So even though they exist perhaps on some hard drive somewhere, people are very attached to these goods. And what happened was the person, the defendant, essentially used a hack that allowed him to reproduce all of these vendor stocks. He literally went into their store, copied their entire inventory, and then set up a store across the virtual street selling the exact same goods. And that's why they cried foul, because he's essentially ruining their businesses because it's so easy to copy.
So the plaintiffs do have a pretty legitimate case here in their grievance, whether or not in the eyes of the law it's the case. But I mean, they're understandably miffed.
Well, and they are losing real income, and their businesses as a whole are being tarnished. So it's both the economic loss, but also the anguish of having an entire business that they spent years building up be ruined overnight because some crook essentially sets up with their own inventory all over in their same marketplace.
So I know you and I have talked about Second Life before, several months ago. Tell me more about Second Life, the scope of the interest here, what is being offered, and why it is just such a phenomenon.
Well, I think it comes down to the way they've structured their marketplace, that this is the first virtual world, that economics is the primary incentive, that they're really trying to connect sort of web-based e-commerce sites into a 3D visual environment. So it makes e-commerce more visually appealing for consumers, whether it's clothes or cars that you can configure in the virtual world, but then go to a real world dealer to get. And that's why a lot of major industries and companies are investing a lot in this platform.
Do we have any idea about how much money has been changing hands on through Second Life?
Well, it's definitely in the millions. It hasn't reached the billions yet, but there's in the last year tens of millions of dollars that are gone through the exchange, which is basically a US dollar Linden Lab, as what are called Linden dollar exchange. And a lot of this goes towards things like gambling and pornography, which are big Second Life industries, but people are also spending this on Nissan cars, American Apparel products. CSI New York, for example, had a whole reconstruction of one of their shows as a crime scene in this world, and had advertisers promoting it as a way to further enhance their television show.
Well, the possibilities seem endless on Second Life. Has there ever been a lawsuit before, or is this the first?
This is the first that has actually gone to trial. All the others have been settled out of court. But what's interesting in this case is the defendant is saying, look, this is just a video game. You can't sue me over virtual objects. It's all make-believe. You can't penalize me because I figured out the system better and created a new fantasy that trumped yours. Whereas the people who own these businesses are saying, this is very real. This is our livelihood. You can't call it just a game. This is the real life. Therefore, this is a real lawsuit.
So this particular lawsuit, it's a first because it's gone this far. Still very much in a preliminary phase. But if there's a decision in this case, lots of people are going to be pouring over it because of precedent potential. Might this help clarify the relationship between the real world and the virtual world?
Well, absolutely. And I think there's been a lot of apprehension amongst businesses who are really insecure about putting their intellectual property in this environment because of how easy it could be reproduced. So if there are, as you say, real world laws that can apply to this virtual environment, it'll really open up the market for everyone, and when I say everyone, I mean big business, to put their trademarks, to put their property, intellectual property in this system, and that may attract more consumers.
Fascinating stuff. Jesse, thanks.